a great question. Okay, I sent out the two things. The first thing is for the first Mishnah, that's the psukim. That's the psukim. And the second thing, if you don't have it, just get a chumash. We know that there's a din of unique dinim, guys. There's the classic yachid. There's the classic yachid, a yachid who brings the chatas. Then there is the par helam davishal tzibor. Then there's the kohen Mashiach, and then there's the melech, the nasi. They bring each. We said that the Mashiach and the helam dava have something in common, that they can only bring a korban with a hayra, and after the hayra, shiggas maisa. After they give a psak, you have shiggas maisa. That we saw. There is a parsha in the Torah. There's a parsha in the Torah that we're familiar with, right? It's Vayikra Hey. Vayikra Hey. What is this?
This is Bamidbar.
No, I don't know what I got here. 1 second. Stop share. Let me go over here. Let me see what I've got in the share column. I got this. And I got this. I got this. I got this. So share. You see psukim? You see psukim? Okay, good. Okay, so that's Bamidbar. I don't need Bamidbar. What is this? This is what I need. Hang on a second, guys. Hang on a second. Attachment. Okay, stop share. Recording. Share. Okay, see V'nefesh kisechta, you see okay, hey, okay. So V'nefesh kisechta, it's Perek Hey Pasuk Aleph. We're going to go through a whole Perek. V'nefesh kisechta v'shama kol Allah v'hu einoi ra o yadayim lo yaglam. So this is the Pasha Shua say this. If someone comes along, they say testify, and you swear that you don't know, and then you admit the truth. So that's called Shua say this. I nefesh shesiga b'chol davar tamei. But you touch a davar tamei, I've been nivlas chay tameya, I've been nivlas behemoth tameya, I've been nivlas sheretz tamei v'nel amimenu. It's hidden from him. Who tamei v'ashem. He doesn't have air. What aver does he do? He goes into the Beis Hamikdash or eats kachim. Right? He goes to the Beis Hamikdash or eats kachim. Oy kiyiga b'tumas adam l'chol tumasa sheyitma ba v'nel amimenu v'hu yada v'ashem. He goes to the Beis Hamikdash. So first of all, Shuas Eidis. Second of all, what we call tumas mikdash ukadashav. Oy nefes kisheshava levate b'svasayim. Lahara lahativ, to eat, not to eat, right? Lahara lahativ, l'cholashe yivata adam b'shua v'nela mimenu v'hu yada v'ashem. He finds out that he was over on the shua, and therefore v'hoisa kiyeshem la'achas me'ela. One of those three. Again, one of the three guys are very important. Tumas mikdash shekadasav, shmias kol, which is shuas eidis, and what and shuas bitoi. Good. And if you do any one of those things, v'hevias hashamo lashem al chatasai ashechata minatsoin kispoy sirasism. He brings a female. He brings a female. It's a chatas. And here's key pasuk zayin v'loim sagia yadai. They say he can't afford it. V'hevias hashamo ashechata. They started him. He's going to bring what? He's going to bring two birds. He's going to bring two birds. One is a chatas, one is an oila, and he's going to bring it to the kayin. And we go on to the next parsha. What is that? The imloy sasig yadai, and if he's not able to go ahead and bring two birds, the heaviest kabanoya shechata asira seif asoilas lachatas layasim la shemen. He's a chayta. You don't put shemen on it. Leitan lavoina kichatas he. So this is the parsha, guys, of a very unique parsha. The parsha, what we call oila v'yoyre, based upon your physical, your financial holding. What you're holding financially, you're going to be, if you have a few bucks, you're going to bring a sheep or a goat. If you don't have a few bucks, less than that, you're going to bring two birds. And if you're poor, you're going to bring what? Flour. Now, there's only three averis that this is for. There's mitzvah also, but regarding the three averis again are tumas mikdash, shuas bitui, shuas eidis, Tumas Mikdash Kadashav and Shuas Bitoy. So now, what? Yeah, again, but that's a different parsha. But sorry, Yoledes, that's a different parsha. But within this parsha, good. That's more tighter than that. Within this parsha, this is what we have. Okay, so now the Mishnah is going to tell us a chiddush. If the Sanhedrin blows it in a psak of one of these three things, they're not going to bring the oil of Yared. No, it's not. They're not. You're not going to bring the Helam Dava. They're not going to bring the par. This unique par that Vayikra Dalit, right? The unique par in Vayikra Dalit that you bring is only when it's a chatas kavua, when it's a chatas that you chayiv karis for. Good, but if it's not a chatas that you chayiv karis for, then you're not going to go ahead and bring Helam Dava, which lends itself within the three Averis we discussed. There is one that is a chayiv karis, Tumas Mikdash Kadashav, right? So again, this is the first part of the shir, guys, will center upon that. The first part of the shir will center upon that. Okay, says the Mishnah Daf Ches Amid Beis. Ein chayavim al shmias kol. The Helam Dover of the tzibur chayavim, guys. The key to the Masechta chayavim, it's not going on the yachid. It's going on the tzibur, right? The tzibur, the bezdin. Ein chayavim al shmias kol. Bezdin won't be mechayev on shmias kol. V'al bitis vasayim al tumas mikdash gedashav. The three averis we just met. The bezdin will not be mechayev. Nasi kayotze behem. And the melech as well will not bring his carbon, what on one of these things. V'divrei Rabbi Yosei Glili. These are the words of Rabbi Yosei Glili. Good. Now, if you look at Rashi, Rashi towards the end says, "Ein besn chayav." Okay, no. Let's continue a little bit. Now, we know this, guys. We know this halachis for those people who were in shir yesterday morning, not in the evening, right? We saw the Mishnah said that you're not going to bring the par helam dava on an asay v'lois asay shebemigdash. Look at the Mishnah before, guys. Ein chayavim besen's not chayiv al asay v'alois asay shebemigdash. Meaning, if you're in the base of Migdash and there's a mitzvah say to leave, and they tell you don't have to leave, versus they tell you could come in when you know you can't, they're not going to be chayiv on that. So this is repetitious. Mm-hmm. Guys, in other words, this is repetitious. That asay sheba Migdash means, and Loisa say, the best in Paskins, you could go into the base of Migdash. That's Tumas Mikdash Kadashav, right? So l'chari, this is not necessary. The reason we bring it in is for the next halacha. These are Rabbi Yosei Glili. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Hanasi chayiv bikulan. The nasi will be chayiv in all of them to bring an oil of yared. Chutz mishmias kol, with the exception of Shavuos Eidis. Shamelech leidon v'leidon and I say leimeid v'leimeid meisay. In other words, he can't testify. So you can't come to a king and say testify, and he swears falsely or he has no testimony. The mitzias of the case doesn't take place. So Rabbi Akiva disagrees with Rabbi Yosei Glili. According to Rabbi Yosei Glili, the nasi, and not only bezdin, but the nasi is also out. Yes, the nasi. Now notice we didn't discuss Mashiach. We didn't discuss the Kohen Mashiach, the third fellow. And Rabbi Akiva disagrees. He says by Shavuos Bitoy and by Tumas Mikdash Chadash of the nasi will be chayiv, right? However, he won't be chayiv what on Shmias Allah. Why Shmias Kol? Because there's no Shavuos Eidis. Okay, now, so why do we bring this in? Why are we bringing in this Mishnah? After all, if it's unnecessary, so look at Rashi. Let's not do the whole Rashi. Okay, let's do the whole Rashi. Because all these three are carbon right? Like we said before, that Tzibur emevin chatas el bekavua. That Tzibur only brings on a psak of a carbon kavua. Kavua means it's the only game in town, right? It's set that you're going to bring what? A carbon chatas. Ubedinhu d'lei boy lemisni. Really, you shouldn't list this Mishnah. Why? The Tanil El, we just learned in the Mishnah above, Ein chayav malasei va'alos asei shebemigdash. V'amina mishum that tzibur bechatas kavua v'tumah migdash kadashav havi boy leviyared. So why? Once you told me that, and I know that Mishnah, I know this Mishnah. Says the Gemara, "V'hu adin hashmiyas kol." The best napata. For Heidik Tani Hachas, why did you learn it here, guys? Why did we bring it in? Ein Bezdin Chayav Mashmias Kol. Mishin Debaya Fluger of Yosef Gli Rabbi Kiv. They argue regarding what? Regarding the Nasi. Ein Bezdin Chayav Mashmias Kol. V'albitis V'sayim to Miskamish Gloshav. V'hu Adin L'Mashiach. So we bring in what? We bring in the Machloikis. We brought this in only for the Machloikis by Shmias Kol, by Shvuas Eidis, that what? Whether late Rabbi Akili Mechayiv on the other two, and Rabbi Yosef will be potter on everything, right? That's why we brought it in. For who adin Mashiach? Rashi throws in the same din would apply what by the Mashiach. That the Mashiach what would be potter the same way Bezdin's potter. Good. So again, just to reiterate before we go weiter, guys, what are we doing? What are we discussing? Guys, we're discussing these unique karbonis. In other words, there's the classic chatas. We're beyond that. There's the special chatas of the kohen, the special chatas of the tzibur, and the special chatas of the nasi. Those are the three things that are under discussion. And we're saying that the din shvuas bitoy, according to Rabbi Yossi, does not apply to any of them. Why? Because shvuas bitoy and shvuas eidus and tumas mitish kedashav, it's all what? It's all oilav yoyred. And the only time you chayiv it has to be on a chatas that's steady, one chatas. You know, if you're in a Chinese restaurant, column A and there's only one choice, versus column B and there's 3 or 4 choices, right? So therefore, I'm explaining that it works for somebody, you know, like some people, like someone said to me the other night. I said, "You understand the Gemara?" He goes, "I didn't understand the thing until you said first base and second base, and then he said it came together." Okay, anyway, so this is what we're saying now. This is the Mishnah. So now, what do we have? Bezdin's takapata. No one argues by Bezdin. Mashiach, no one's arguing by Mashiach either, at least in our Mishnah. By Nasi, we have machlokes. According to Yosef Glili, Nasi is the same as Bezdin. You're not, if the Nasi is over on an oil v'yoyri, he's not going to go ahead and bring. And according to what? Not going to be oil v'yoyri. And according to Rabbi Kiva, the only one he won't bring is what is the Shuas Eidus of the king, but the other ones he will. Ama'ula, my time with Rabbi Yossi Glili that you pata. Again, Rabbi Yossi Glili says you pata across the board, but the Nasi is pata across the board. Amakra, and not guys, not only the Nasi is the. So guys, Rabbi Yossi Glili is the easiest thing to remember. Fellas, look at me. Rabbi Yossi Glili is the easiest thing to remember. Just like Bezdin's pata by all 3, the Nasi's pata by all 3, and the Kohen's pata by all 3. He goes across the board. Everything's out. Now, we know again the reason why Bezdin is out is because only chatas kavua, not an oil of yoyred. Now, what about the Nasi and the Mashiach? Where's Rabbi Yossi Glili's source for those 2 other halachas? My time with Rabbi Yossi Glili, Amakra, v'hoya kiyesham la'achas me'ela, as we saw the pasuk, he'll sin in one of these things. Kol shem mischayev ba'achas, anyone who's chayev in one of them, mischayev b'kulon. U'she'em mischayev ba'achas, ein mischayev b'kulon. So once you're out in one, you're out what? Guys, once you're out in one, you're going to be out completely. The king is out in Shuas Eidus. The king can't testify. So once the king is out in Shuas Eidus, he's out in Shuas Bitoy, which he could do ostensibly, and he's out of what? Thomas Mitish Kadasha, which he also could do. Good? So in other words, once you're out in one, you're out in the other 2. Good. Now, the Ema Mischayev Ba'achas Mehen, V'alpi Shem Mischayev B'kulon. In other words, what's Gate Miron, as we say in Yiddish? Like what? So just because you're out in one doesn't mean you can't be in the other 2. The svara doesn't lend itself. So Ella, time of Rabbi Yossi Glili mehacha, the Tanya. Nemar. Okay, it says in the parsha. Let's look at the parsha, guys. Let's look at the parsha. Labrius. It says Pasuk Zion, guys. Look on guys. If you have it in front of you, if you're looking over here, from Lo Sagia Yada, they say if you can't afford the rich man's, right? It says Lo Sagia Yada. Then you go farther down and you bring 2 birds. Pasuk Aleph. Then Lo Sasig Yada L'Shtei Sarim. And if you can't afford 2 Tairim, then you're going to bring what? You're going to bring flour. You're going to bring flour. So you have these 2 things. Good. Now, what's the mashmais, fellas? It's mashma that the possibility exists for you to be poor. Can a king be poor? Can a kohen gadol be poor? Memela, since they can't be poor, they're not shaykh to the parsha, and memela they're out. That's the sofer of Yosef Glili. Let's see it inside. It says, "Lo sagia yadai v'nema lo sasig yadai misha boli de anias." Who is in the parsha of Oile v'Yored? Someone who can come to poverty. V'ashiris yatsa nasi u'mashiach. It'll go ahead and preclude the nasi and the Mashiach. Shein boli de anias. Now, how do you know that? Nasi dichsiv by nasi. What does this? What does it say by the nasi? V'asa achas mikol mitzvos Hashem Elokov. This right. Misha ein al gabov el Hashem Elokov. Oh, the only one above him is Hashem. So if the nasi is in the melech in that position, the only above him is Hashem. Certainly, what he must be wealthy, or else you'd have wealthy people above him. Mashiach dichsiv v'koyin gadol meyachav. The koyin gadol meyachav. Shehu gadol meyachav. He's bigger than his brothers. How is he bigger than his brothers? B'nai and beauty, b'koyach and strength, b'chachma, u'ba'oisher, and with wealth. How do you know if he doesn't have wealth? Gidlehu, you go ahead and make him rich. Mishalachiv, Tamalayim v'koyin gadol meyachav. V'shayutzak al reishay. Gidlehu meyachav. Go ahead and elevate him. So, guys, we have that's outside. We have a beautiful pshat, easy, right? Rabbi Yossi clearly says, just like fellas, just like the bezdin is out by Oile v'Yored because you're only chayav and helam dava. By a kavua, we have a reason why the Mashiach and the Nasi are out. You know why they're out? Because the why they're out Oile v'Yored? Because to be in the parsha of Oile v'Yored, you have to have the capacity to not be wealthy enough to bring a keves or a sira. There's no way. And then if you're not, then you're going to bring birds. If you're not, you're going to bring what? Flour. There's no way that what? You're going to bring flour. There's no way you're going to bring birds. You're always wealthy enough to bring a sheep. And Mamela, you're out. Mamela, guys, you're out. Good?
Why do you have to be in the parsha? The Torah is giving you an out. Someone who, the Kohen and
so the look at the touch the words. From sasig yodo, and if you don't, and if you can't afford. What does that mean? What do you mean? It means if you can't afford. That's speaking about a person who will never be able to afford. That doesn't apply. You touch the words. Doesn't. That's what we're saying. That's what I say. Wait. Anyway. I worry about you. Okay.
At the circus,
Boimine Ravina. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Ravina asked for Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Nasi shenit stara. Now the halacha is if a melech becomes a mitzoira, then he's out. In other words, he's like Biden. He's out. He's out. Except Biden, they fooled you that they were still in, but he was really out. But he's out. So now here's the question. He's out, so he's no longer a king. Would he now, if he did an Avera of Oile v'Yored, would he bring it? Is he considered, in other words, do you look at him as what he was? Do you look at what he was, figuratively, or do you look at him as, well, he might still have money, So how do you look at it? So here's the way the Gemara learns the Shaila.
One of the things just like honey.
Yeah, but that's Hasidic stuff. This you need mamish geld. This you need mamish geld. You're right, but you need geld over here. It's not. You need geld. You need money over here. It's not. We're not talking about Ezo speaking about that Yankel. Right? Oh, he's a happy guy, so you can be happy all you want. If you don't have a dime to your name, you're bringing flour. I'm an usher. I'm Samech Bechelki. Guess what? What are you bringing, boy? You're bringing flour. You're not bringing. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so do we say Ma'u Mitcha Dachi? Do we say that he's out since he's out, right? He's out of since he's out, and therefore he could bring the Oile v'Yored. A Mifta Pata. Always Pata. That's it. Once he was out, he's out. Amalei. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak answered Ravina, Dilach or the Gaza. Who is this? Who is he bringing? Is he bringing the carbon? This Mitzayra Kayin. Is he bringing it from you, or is he bringing it from his own treasury? And the answer, obviously, is bringing it from his own treasury. Just because the king becomes a Mitzayra, he may be Chodesh K'meis, but he's not an ani. He's wealthy. He's a sick, wealthy man, but he's wealthy. So once he's wealthy, he's not shaykh to the Parsha of Yored. So that's an easy answer to the question. Okay, now Rabbi Akiva, yeah. Rabbi Akiva argued on what? Rabbi Akiva argued on Rabbi Yossi Glili. What did Rabbi Akiva say? He said Bezdin is takapata. He said Bezdin's pata. He said the Kain's pata. However, he said they argue by Shmias Kol. By Shvuas they agree by Shmias Kol. By Shvuas Eidis, he agreed. But by Tumas Midrash Gedashav and Shvuas Bitoy, the king would be chayiv. Guys, you hear? That's the machlokes. That's the machlokes. That's the machlokes. You could look. You have it. I'll put it in front of you now. Look. You see a chart? Yeah, that chart. It's this chart, guys. You should have. Maybe you have it if you have your phone with you. You have it. You have the chart. It's this one. You have it from last time. Great. No, he has it from last time also. Avrami, you have it from last time?
That means I didn't learn it since then.
So they stop.
It's not you go 2%, you say.
It's 2003.
Huh?
It's 2003.
This is 2003.
Second time.
Okay. Anyway, if you look in the last column, in the last three columns, I have Shmias Kol, Vitas Vasayim, and Tumas Mitzvah Shgadashav. So if you look at Rabbi Yossi Glili, I put down there Bezdin, that's Kayin, that's Nasi. Good? You see that in the first column? All you see is a bunch of potter. They're all potter. Rabbi Akiva argues. By Bezdin, he agrees potter. By Nasi, he says potter. I'll discuss this in a second. By Nasi, he disagrees. Only by Shmias Kol, which is Shuas Eidus, he potter. In the last two columns, by the Nasi, right, he says Yechayev. So that's the Svaras Machlokes. Now the Gemara wants to know how Rabbi Akiva's opinion. How did Rabbi Akiva's opinion develop that the Nasi is chayiv in those two and the Mashiach is pata? Good. That's our job right now. We're very happy to blog and import some superior charts. So now, says the Gemara. Omar Rava, my time of the Rabbi Akiva. Again, what's the reason? What's the reason Rabbi Akiva holds that by Shvuas Bitoy and Tumas Mikdash that the Nasi is chayiv? Amakra, and why is the Mashiach pata? Why is the Mashiach pata? Oh, excuse me. He's only going on the Mashiach now. He's going to the Mashiach. Why is the Mashiach pata? Good. In other words, fellas, the Nasi, we know the Nasi is pata. And the Kohen Gadol's pata, according to Rabbi Yossi Glili, because of wealth. But my time with Rabbi Akiva, guys, because obviously he can't hold the wealth. Because if he held the wealth, he wouldn't be holding them mechayev for what? Tumas Mitzvah Shgadashav, and what? And in other words, guys, be with me, bear with me, fellas, look at me. Like Rabbi Yossi Glili, he put the king and the Kohen Gadol out because of what? Because of wealth. Rabbi Akiva does not buy into that. What's your raya? He holds you chayiv. The king is chayiv in two things, but if it's wealth, he should be out. So the fact that he's chayiv on those two things shows that what? That wealth's not a factor. So now, what's the reason? What's Rabbi Akiva's reason that he's potter from Shmias Kol? We know why he's potter from, because of he can't testify. This Mashiach, not the Nasi. So now, so Mashiach, since the Mashiach also wealth can't be the reason. Why does he hold that he's out? So Rabbi Akiva, my time Rabbi Akiva, guys, you understand the kasha? Like Rabbi Akiva, he doesn't have the same svara as we see from Nasi, he doesn't hold the wealth. We see from Mashiach, he doesn't. But Mashiach, you say he's pata. But the patur can't be because of wealth. I'm double talking. No. Watch. Three things. Guys, look at me. Three things. Now, we know that the Mashiach is pater on all three. But the reason can't be the same reason as Rabbi Yossi Glili. It can't be because of wealth. Why not? Because the king is wealthy and is chayiv on too. So obviously, when the Mashiach is pater, it can't be because of wealth. It must be another reason. That's what the Gemara is saying. Okay, that's just the introduction to. Okay, so now says the Gemara. My time, the Rabbi Akiva, Omakra, Zeh Korban Aaron Ubanov, right? This is the korban of Aaron and his sons. This comes as a chiyuv and a cheres ba'achayv aloi. Fellas, when the Kohanim, the first day when they come in, they bring what's called a minchas chavitim. The Kohen Gadol brings every day minchas chavitim. It's a tenth of an ephah. You bring half in the morning, half in the afternoon, every single day. Now, zeh, meaning this, guys, watch. This carbon ephah you bring, but the carbon ephah of the early yarid you will not bring. Zeh, dafka this. So Memela, the suggestion is, guys, look, the Kohen Mashiach, since he's out of number 3, he's out of 1 and 2 as well. Since he's out of number 3, he's out of 1 and 2 as well. How do you know he's out of number 3? Because we say zeh, dafka, this carbon comes from flour and nothing else. Okay. Ve'ema ki memayele rachmana. Let's say 1 second. What's he memayed from? Midale dales, from flour. That's the poor of the poor. Umayniu asiras ephah. Guys, in other words, look. If the look at me, if the pasuk that you're learning from is the asiras ephah pasuk, so take him out of that pasuk. And the other 2 dalos, regular dalos, and ashiras, he should be chayiv. Ashiras of the kevis and the dalos of the birds, he should be chayiv. Aval anias v'ashiras, anias meaning birds, v'ashiras and sheep. Loimai rachmana, he's not out. Yet Rabbi Kiva says he's out of all of them. Says the Gemara loy salkadaita. You can't say that. The Chsiv, it says v'chiper alav hakayin al chatasay asher chata me achas me ele. Hamischafra ba'achas, one who gets a kapara 1, mischapa b'kulon. Ushe'ei mischapa ba'achas, and one who cannot be mischapa ba'achas, in this case the Mashiach in the dales in the flour, a mischapa b'kulon. Okay? Guys, that's where he's going to know it from. Since it says me achas, one who gets a kapara from one of them, right? But if you can't get a kapara from one of them, you don't get a kapara from any of them. That's what the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to ask on that, but that's what the Gemara says. So now he's out of the parsha of flour because what? Zeh by the carbon cheskavit is flour. Fred the Gemara, maybe he's in the parsha by what? By birds. Maybe he's in the parsha by what? By sheep. Says the Gemara, no. Once he's out by this, he's out by these 2. Fred the Gemara kasha. Now you're telling me you're learning from this word me achas. Fred the Gemara kasha. Alama Tanan, Rabbi Akiva Omer. Am I skipping? Elamiyata. Excuse me, I skipped. Elamiyata. Dichsiv v'hoya kiyeshem la'achas me'ela. In the parsha of Yarid, it says you do one of these things. If you do one of these things, right? Hochanami dechol mischay ba'achas mischay b'kulon. U'she'em mischay ba'achas em mischay b'kulon. In other words, if you're over on one of the averis, we just said the following. Regarding this carbon, we want to know about these carbonis. What about the following? Yesham le'achas me'ele. So if you're correct, Rabbi Akiva, you should say the following: anyone who's over on 1 or can't be over on 1 shouldn't be over on the other 2. Yet Rabbi Akiva says what? The king can be over on 2, even though he can't be over on a 3rd. He can't be over on Shavuos Eidus, but he can be over on the other 2. So if Rabbi Akiva darshins this achas, if Rabbi Akiva darshins this achas, then he should be not that he should say 1 second. Good, I can't bring flour, but I should bring the other 2. Okay, guys, let's look at me. Look at me. Here we're going to do 2 things. We're going to do types of karbanis, and we're going to do types of sins, types of averis. Good. Here's what you're telling me. Just move, maybe Penny can move a little bit. Good. So now you're telling me types of averis. What? Types of karbanis. Since the kohen is out of flour, he's out of the other 2. If that's the case, you should tell me the following: since the kohen gadol is out of 1 avera, he should be out of all the averas. That's what you should darshan. Good. Okay, but we know it's not true because what does Rabbi Kiva say? The king is out of 1 avera, Shavuos Eidus. The other 2 is chayiv. So that's the question. So if that drasha is not a drasha, this drasha is not a drasha. Now listen to Rabbi Kiva. The teretz is. This is a great teretz. The kohen gadol is out of flour because only the minchas chavitin he brings, right? Kohen's out of flour, yes? If you wanted to teach me the halacha that he's in the ballpark of the other 2, you shouldn't have said the miyat by something that you know he's out. The miyat that is out of me'achas is, you know, we stated, guys. It's not, guys. It's not me'achas le'achas. You know where you stated it? You stated it by the one you know he's out. He's out of flour because he brings minchas chavitin. If you wanted to teach me that he's out by one and in by other two, you should have stated by the birds. You should have stated by the sheep. The facts that you stated it by the one that you know, you didn't have to state it by. It was the obvious. He's out by flour because you have minchas chavitin. He's out. The fact that you stated it over there is telling me no. Not only is that over here, he's out the other two as well. It's a lumdish teretz. Again, if you want, the kasher is Rabbi Kiva. We see Rabbi Kiva darshans. You can be out of one and in for the other two. So why over here one he's out of the other things? Because no, it's partial. Over here, there's a big reason. When you darshan one over here, out of two, it's nothing to do with the achas. The fact that what? That this is the drasha. There it says la'achas, but it's a big difference. Right? What's the difference over there? When it says that he's out of the ballpark, it says he's out of the ballpark in the pasture of flour. You don't have to say that. I know that already. He's out of the ballpark of flour. How do I know that? Because minchas chavitin is out. Why did you state he's out over there? To tell me he's out over there, he's out of the other two. Because if you wanted to tell me he's in, you should have told me he's out by one of the other two, and he'd be in. Okay, that's the Gemara's teretz. Alam, so Elamiata. Let's see Nachamol. Elamiata. Dichsiv. V'hoy kiyeshem la'achas me'ele hachanami dechol mischay ba'achas mischay b'kulon. That ushi mischay ba'achas ein mischay b'kulon. So therefore, the kohen gadol who's out by one by the minchas chavitin, as a result, he's out of dali dalos. Then he should be in the other two. Alamat tanan Rabbi Kiva oimer nasi chayiv chutz mishmiyas kol. Abayev, okay, so Abayev Rabbi David Shavayu me'achas mashmalei la'achas le'mashmalei. What's that? But they both agree that Rabbi Kiva says la'achas to go ahead and me'achas that to darshan that he's out of one, but not the other two. That's mashmal la'achas that he's out of one. He's out of all of them. That's by once he's out of the ballpark of flour, he's out of the other two. La'achas, but to say he's out of the avera of what of flour, that he's in the ballpark of shvuas edis and shvuas and tumas mikdash udashav. Lei mashmalei. Ma'ishna me'achas the mashmalei. Where does it say it? At the end by Asiris Eifa, which we know already. Guys, we know already. Why doesn't the Kohen bring a? Why is the Kohen Mashiach not in the ballpark of minchas of excuse me of what am I saying? He's not in the ballpark of what of bringing flour because he is drasha of minchas chavitin. So why do we have to say that the drasha by that? Remember the chol mischay basir seif and mischay b'kulon. To tell me that anyone who's chayiv and asir seif is chayiv and everything. And therefore the kohen gadol who's potter from that, he's potter from the other two. These are like mischay ba'achas af b'shem mischay b'kulon nichtvei lahayim me'achas me'ela b'dalei dalos, right? Say it by the birds, by dalos. Inami b'ashiris by there. Or by the fact you said it by what? Okay, it's intense stuff. It's intense. Okay, what do we have so far? What? Well, that's why people say, "Oh, yeah, Horayos 13 vlad."
So made an open in the 70s.
What? Yeah, no, this is it's. We have somebody else says something about it, but I think he's a little better this time around. Fifth time's the charm. Okay, guys, Geschmack. Parsha of Par Helam Dava, they're all out. Chatas Kavua, you're out. Parsha of Mashiach, like Rabbi Yosef Glili, you're out, and Nasi and Mashiach are out because of wealth. Parsha like Rabbi Akiva of Mashiach, you're out because you're not in by the parsha of minchas. You can't bring a minchas chavitin. You can't bring a dali dalish. You can't bring flour because you have a miyat only by there, and therefore you're out. And the nasi is, according to Rabbi Akiva, is only out by one thing. The one thing he can't do, which is testify. The other two he would be in. Okay, that's basically in a minute. I just told you everything you have to know. That's everything we did tonight. Okay, the next mission is Geschmack. Oh, we're going to keep the chart out, and we're going to use the chart in the next mission. Everything's going to go flassig, as they say. Flassig, I don't know what flassig means. Okay, you see a chart? I always have to ask. Okay, good. Okay, let's start the Mishnah. Okay, let's let the chart before the Mishnah, guys. There's three parts to the chart. The first part is Chayv Karis, Avodah Zara, and Hashem Taloi, and Hashem Vadai. Okay, those are Do you have a yachid, an individual? You have a king, you have the kohen gadol, and you have bezdin. Going across is the various karbanos you're going to be chayiv. Okay? So, a yachid by chiyav kares is going to bring a sheep, a female or goat. A nasi is going to bring a male goat. A mashiach is going to bring a par, and bezdin is going to bring a par. This we all know. Avodah zara. They're each going to bring a seira, with the exception of bezdin is going to bring a par and a sayer. Anashim taloi, they're both chayiv. Mashiach and bezdin are pata because they're not nefesh achas, and it doesn't say nefesh achas by there. Asham vadai, they're three chayiv, and bezdin is going to be pata by an asham. Okay, that's the first part of the thing. Let's see that inside. Kol mitzvah shebetayra shechayav mal zedoinei kares v'ashugas and chatos. A chi of kares yachid maybe kispa v'sira. It's right up there on the right. Vanasi seyer, right one below. Umashiach ubezdin par. That's our first column, right? Guys, got it in the first column? Good. Next thing. Avoidus kechavim. Hayachid v'nasi v'mashiach mevi'in seira. You got it? 333. And ubezdin par v'seyer. Good. Next. Par lo'ila v'seyer lechatas. Ashim talui. Anashim talui. Hayachid v'nashi chayavim. Mashiach ubezdin peturin. Again, because it says nefesh achas, and they're not b'chal nefesh. Ashim vadai hayachid v'nashi v'mashiach chayavim ubezdin peturin. Okay, so we did the easier part. Now, here's the harder part. You have a three-way machloikis, two of we know, Rabbi Yosef Glili and Rabbi Kiva, we know already from the previous Mishnah, and we're going to meet Rav Shimon. So let's just reiterate, which we know already. Rabbi Yosef Glili says you're completely potter across the board, right? You're completely potter across the board, right? Whether it's, guys, look at the chart, whether it's bezdin or the kohen or the nasi, bezdin, that's that bezdin kohen nasi, you're potter, right? You're potter across the board, and it doesn't make a difference because again he had, because of bezdin chatas kavua by bezdin, and the other two was what was wealth. We have the sheet of Rabbi Akiva, bezdin's potter because chatas kavua. Rabbi Akiva says potter, but be aware, fellas, that he's potter from the oil of yoyred, he would be chayiv a par. I put over here aval par chayiv. Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that the kohen is chayiv the par. He's potter from the oil of yoyred. The kohen. This is going on the middle column, guys. I didn't do it well. I should have stopped right over here. That he's potter from the oil of yoyred, but he'd be chayiv. That you don't have in your chart, Baruch. That I added this time around. Al par is chayiv. And the nasi, we had Rabbi Akiva shita. The shmias kol is potter. Why? Because he can't testify. But there's no patur for bitis v'sayim nor tumas mitzvah gedashav. So the chiddush we have to meet, fellas, is the shita of Reb Shimon. The chiddush we have to say, the chiddush we have to see is the chiddush what of the shitas of Reb Shimon. Good. So let's see that's where we're up to now. Al shmiyas kol bitis v'sayim al tumas migdash gedashav bezdin peturin v'yachiv v'nasim mashiach chayavnim. Okay, so this is the shita of Rav Shimon, guys. Let's go through it again. Under 3, Shmias Kol B'Tz V'Sayim Tumas Mikdash Bezdin Peturim. So he's no different than what? He's no different than everybody else. V'Hayachid V'Hanasi Mashiach Chayavim. Oh, here he's very different. He says the Kohen Gadol would be Chayiv. El Shein Kohen Gadol Mashiach Chayiv Al Tumas Mikdash Gedashav. Divrei Rav Shimon. So guys, look at the chart. Look at the chart of Shimon. Bezdin pata the same as the other ones. Rav Shimon says the kohen is chayiv, with the exception of tumas mikdash gedashav is pata. The Gemara will say why. Guys, you here? See the chart, fellas? Look at the chart. The bottom of Shimon. Bezdin across the board you pata. Kohen is chayiv except pata tumas mikdash gedashav. Nasi is pata from shmiyas kol because he can't testify. In other words, he holds like Rabbi Akiva by Nasi. He holds like Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yosef Glili by Bezdin. He argues on Rabbi Yosef Glili and Rabbi Akiva by Kohen. That's where he argues, by Kohen, the middle column. He agrees with Rabbi Akiva by Nasi. He agrees with both Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yosef Glili by Bezdin. Where does he defer? He defers le'inyan what? Le'inyan the Kohen, the Mechayev by Shvuas Edis and Shvuas Bitoy. Good. Let's see it inside. V'anasi Mashiach Chayavim Besn Peturin al Shmiras Kol V'al Bitus Svayim V'al Tumas Mikdash Kedashav Besn Peturin V'Hayochim V'anasi Mashiach Chayavim El Shein Kohen Gadol Mashiach Chayav Al Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. The Reb Shimon. U'mahein Meviyin. What do they bring? When you say that the Nasi is Chayav, guys, you tell me the king is Chayav for Oil V'Yored in what Bitus Vasayim and Tumas Mikdash Kedashav, and Mashiach according to Reb Shimon is Chayav for Shmiras Kol and Tumas Vasayim and Tumas Mikdash, right? What does he bring? What do you bring? Carbon oil of v'yored. You bring a carbon oil of v'yored. In other words, you'll bring whatever. You'll bring a sheep or birds or flour. Maybe sayer. The nasi is going to bring the same carbon he brings even without the oil of v'yored. He's going to bring a sayer. He's going to bring a sayer. Uncle, you know how to work the air conditioner? Just push it and lower the thermostat. Push it in. The thermostat will show up and make it lower. Okay. Now, says the Gemara, Tanya. Reb Shimon hayanoisin klal. Reb Shimon gave what? The following klal. Tanya, Reb Shimon hayanoisin klal. Here's Reb Shimon's klal. Kol shayachid ba'ashim talui. Anything that the thank you. Kol shayachid ba'ashim talui. Hanasi kiyotze boy. Okay, so look, let's see what is the yachid ba'ashim talui, guys? Look at column 3. So he's chayiv. The Yachid's Chayiv by Ashim Taloi, Mashiach U Bezdin, Hanasi Kiyotzebai, the Nasi will be Chayiv, correct? One below, and Mashiach U Bezdin Peturin. That's column number 3, guys, correct? Chayiv Peturin Peturim. You with me? The Cholshu Ba'ashim Vadai, that's column number 4. Nasi and Mashiach Kiyotzebehen. If the Yachid is Chayiv, both the Nasi and Mashiach are like them, U Bezdin Peturin. Column 4, Chayiv Turim. Next, Shmias Kol Bitus Vasayim Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. Bezdin Piturin, because it's a Shavuos Kavua. Okay, so this is Reb Shimon, right? Reb Shimon says Yipata. Nasi uMashiach Chayavim. Is that true? Again, Nasi uMashiach. Look at the chart. Nasi is what? Nasi is going to be what? He says here, he says what? Nasi u'Mashiach chayavim, el sheinu nasi chay b'shmias kol. So we have a problem. Look, no, look at the chart. The chart's not right. Because it's really going to be a kasha. He says, when a nasi and a Mashiach are chayavim, shmias kol beats. So when is the nasi and a Mashiach chayavim, guys? Look at the chart. The nasi and the Mashiach will only be chayav by bitus v'sayim, correct? They'll only chayav by bitus v'sayim. El shein nasi chayav b'shmias kol. The nasi is not chayav b'shmias kol, which is true. V'loy Mashiach b'tumas mikdash kedashav, which is true. That's true. However, you have a problem, right? We have a problem. He said over here that what? That he said over here the Mashiach Chai b'tumas mikdash kedashav shmias kol b'tumas sayis mashu is Chai. Okay. The Gemara, well, that's fair rice. El she'ena nasi chayav b'shmias kol v'le b'shmias kol shehu b'oil v'yored nasi kiyotze boy yachid and nasi is no difference. And nasi is going to be chayiv across the board except for what? Except for shmias kol, and that's a problem. And ubezdin peturin hagu for kasha. Amit, you said shei Mashiach chayiv b'tumas mikdash kedashav. B'tumas mikdash kedashav who the pata av b'shmias kol b'tumas sayim chayiv. No, right? You're saying that what? That shmias kol and b'tumas sayim chayiv. 1 second. Ema seifa kol shu b'oil v'yored nasa kiyotzeva Mashiach ubezdin peturin. Getani Mashiach ubezdin peturin. Ma bezdin peturin mikulan. Mashiach patam b'kulan. So kasha adadi. Look at Rashi, guys. Kasha adadi. What's your kasha? The tani el she'ein Mashiach chayiv atumas mikdash ukedashav hab b'shmias kol ubitul sayim chayiv. But you said that they're pata. Okay. So Amrav Huna b'reid v'Yeshua loy kasha. It's not shver. Kan when are you chayiv b'dalis? Guys, when do we let the Mashiach off the hook? We let him off the hook. What? When it's similar to the Aveira. So in other words, dalis, where you're bringing what? A bird, you're going to be chayiv. Kan b'dali dalis. When are you going to be pata? when you bring flour. The Kohen Mashiach is out by flour. Reb Shimon Savala, Reb Akiva Bechada. He holds like Reb Akiva Bechada that you're pata midali dalis. Upal Galeh Bechada. Savala Reb Akiva b'dali dalis the pata. He says that just like the Kohen is pata because of he brings the minchas chavitin, so therefore he's out of the ballpark of bringing flour. Upal Galeh b'dalis, and he argues by dalis. Reb Akiva, right? He argues by dalis that by a bird. He says by a bird your taka would be chayiv. Rabbi Kiva guys says you put that fila bedalis. Rabbi Kiva says he's out completely. He's out completely. The Kohen Mashiach is out completely. Again, just like he's out by flour, he's out by birds. Rabbi Shimon says no, he's out by flour. I agree, but he's in by birds. He's in by birds, and that's so the one that says chayiv is speaking when what you're bringing birds. The one that says you put is when you're bringing flour. That be answer to the stira. We said the Kohen Gadol is out. Now, why is the Kohen Gadol out? My time with Reb Shimon that the Kohen is out. If he goes in, he's out on the parsha of Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. Right? My time with Tichsiv. Someone goes into the Beis Hamikdash and he's tamei. He gets karis. Misha kirbano shava lekahal. Yatzezeh shein kirbano shava lekahal. Okay, we know the kahal brings what? The kahal brings the carbon, sira, or seir, or birds, or flour. The kohen, he's going to bring a par. If he brings anything, he's going to bring a par. So therefore, it's not similar. So therefore, he's not in the ballpark. And K nasi nami should be out of the ballpark. Ein kabana shavel akal, right? Nasi nami question mark. Guys, the nasi brings a seir, not a sira. So if a nasi goes into the Beis Hamikdash, he should also be pata, from a carbon. Says Gemara, "Ein kabana shava b'kapara Yom Kippur." Even though, so MK nasi nami ein kabana shava l'kahal question mark. Just like the Kohen Gadol is out of the ballpark of Tumas Mikdash Kedashav because he brings a par, so too the nasi who brings a seir should be out of the ballpark. On that, the Gemara answers, but nonetheless, the nasi is similar to kahal because shaveh b'kapara Yom Kippur. He's equal to the what? The kapara of Yom Kippur. He's equal to the kapara of Yom Kippur. That they mechapa with the seir. Says the Gemara kahanim. In Kain kahanim nami, kahanim also they get a kapara Yom Kippur. Lo shav l'kal b'kapara Yom Kippur. Kahanim shav l'kal b'shav mitzvah d'shana kula. I'm reading this incorrectly. Let me read it again. So, Yatzeh shein kabana shav l'kal im kain. So therefore, not nasi nami, the nasi as well. The nasi as well should go ahead what, and the nasi as well should be out of the ballpark of the yored since his carbon is not similar to what for the carbon tzibor. So the Gemara answers shav b'kapar Yom Kippurim. At least the nasi, he's like them on Yom Kippur. They both get what im kain. Kahanim nami lo shavu l'kal b'kapara Yom Kippurim. Kahanim also they should be out of the ballpark because why? Because they don't get they should be out of the ballpark of Olivier because they're not in the ballpark of the carbon because they get a separate carbon. When he answers Kahanim shava l'kahal b'sham mitzvahs d'shana kula, but the rest of the year they're the same. For the Gemara Mashiach nami hashava Mashiach nami is also equal to the rest of the year. So since it's equal to the rest of the year, he should what? You have to bring an Elvi Yared. El Amarava Emahachi. Misha Chatasai Shavali Yechidim Umaninu Kahal. Right? Who's in the ballpark? Someone who brings it based just upon what? On Shigas Maisa. Mashenkin over here, where you're going to bring because of Hera and Shigas Maisa, therefore you're out of the ballpark. Emahachi. Misha Chatasai Shavali Yechidim. Who is in the ballpark of Tumas Mikdash Kedashav? Someone whose carbon is equal to others. Guys, look at me. If the nasi does an avera, do you need harasha or just the avera? Say just the avera. Good. If the kohen does an avera, do you need just the avera or you need a rasha? You need a rasha. If the king does an avera, do you need a harasha? So in other words, by Mashiach, since you need two things, one hayra and that, therefore he's out of the ballpark Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. Masha'en came the king who you don't need a rasha is in the ballpark. That's the teretz. Okay, that's the teretz. Rabbi Eliezer says Nasi brings a seir. You know, as we said, oil of what do they bring? They bring the oil of Yored. Rabbi Eliezer says he brings the seir. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Loi Amar Rabbi Eliezer ela betumas mikdash kedashav. The only time Rabbi Eliezer said that you bring a seir is by tumas mikdash kedashav. Chayil v'nema karis by kivakavua. Since it's different than Shvuas Bito and Shvuas Edus, Shvuas Hakol, those are alavim. This is karis. Since that's an isakaris, and since by a regular isakaris he brings a seir, so too over here. Okay. Again, Rabbi Yochanan is qualifying the Tana Rabbi Eliezer's statement. Said Rabbi Eliezer, by the oil of V'yori, there's 3 oil of V'yordim. There's Shvuas Edus, Shvuas Bito, and Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. When Rabbi Eliezer said that you're going to bring a regular par, it's only a regular seir, it's only that one. Why? Because its similarity is, when does he bring the seir? When it's a Chiyav Chatas. Which of the 3 has a Chiyav Chatas? Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. Since Le'inyan, Karis is equal, but the other 2, he's not going to bring a seir. That's the qualification of Rabbi Eliezer. Rav Papa says Rav Papa, Hachinami Mistaba a Raya to Rabbi Yochanan's Pshat in Rabbi Eliezer. These Sakadaitach Rabbi Eliezer Kula Kamar. He said on all 3 like Michti Seir Nasi Upar Mashiach b'Makom Yachil Lechatas Koi. Right, the Seir of the Nasi and the Par of the Kohen Mashiach is the same as the Yachid of the Chatas. Right, that's column number 1. The Yachid brings the Chatas, the Nasi brings the Seir, and the Kohen brings the Par. That okay. Nisni Nami Mashiach Mevi Par. If that's the case, just like the guys, if that's the case, just like Rabbi El, just like the Yachid brings a Sira, and you're saying that what he brings the Par, so you should list that the Kohen Gadol brings and he brings and the Melech brings a Seir, a male goat. You should go ahead and list. Again, you're telling me by Oil V'Yored that the Rebbe Eliezer is going to bring holds that you bring a seir. Says Rabbi Yochanan, he's only going to bring a seir if he's over on Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. The other 2, he's not going to bring a seir on. The other 2, he's not going to bring a seir on. Says Rav Papa, I'll tell you why. Of the other 3, the only one that's Issachar is that, and the similarity to bringing a par is that Issachar is when he's chayiv the seir. So therefore, but the other 2 not. Now he wants to bring a raya. What's his raya? That these Sakadaitach Rebbe Eliezer Kula Kamar all 3 Michti Seir Nasi Upar Nasi Mashiach Chatas Nisni Nami Mashiach maybe Par. They should go ahead not only list the Nasi, you should bring them Mashiach brings a Par. B'Shmias Kol Bitus Vasayim Elamediktani Katani Mashiach when Elamediktani Mashiach he doesn't say Midaloi Katani Mashiach. He doesn't say the din of Mashiach. He doesn't say Par at all. Shema Mina Tumas Mikdash Kedashav Koi like the Mashiach Pata. Mashiach is going to be Pata Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. Here, look at the. Go back to the Mishnah, guys. Go back to the Mishnah for a second. Go back to the Mishnah for a second. Right before it says Gemara, 2 lines up. Uma hein mevian, right? Uma hein mevian. In other words, you're telling me there are times that the Mashiach is going to bring a. You tell me that the Nasi is going to bring a. You Reb Shimon hold the Nasi is chayiv, right? You Reb Shimon hold that the Nasi is chayiv, right? Reb Shimon, you have Reb Shimon right in front of you. Reb Shimon says the Nasi is chayiv by what? By 2 things. By chayiv the last 2. And the Mashiach is chayiv for the next 2. Good. Now look at, we're going to keep the chart open now. So watch. Umahi mevian carbon oil v'yoyre. Says Reb Shimon, they bring a regular carbon oil. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Hanasi may be seir. So look at the chart, guys. Rabbi Eliezer is saying when it says the Nasi brings a seir, it's only over here on the bottom left, the last on the page. That is the Mikdash Tumas Mikdash Kedashav. That's when he's chayiv the seir. Why? Because he'd be chayiv kares in that case. He'd be chayiv kares in this. But this case over here, he would not bring a seir. On Tumas, on Bitus Vasayim, he would not bring a seir because it's not chayiv kares. Says Rabbi Yishmael, says Rabbi Papa, I got a beautiful raya. What's my raya, guys? Because notice, Rabbi Eliezer didn't say anything about what? Rabbi Eliezer did not say anything about par. Why didn't he say anything about par? You know why? Because you potter. You potter. You see, you didn't bring Mashiach because you potter. So it must be speaking in that case. The last on the last page, on Rav Shimon, the last two lines in the last column. Chayiv Pata. Why did he bring in? He brings the Chayiv over here, so it must be speaking about that because he didn't bring Mashiach. Because if he'd been in Mashiach, he would have been in the first two columns. It says Chayiv. Good. Okay, let's see it inside. Amra Papa Hanam Mistabra. Disak that Rabbi Leza Kula Kamar Michti. Seir Nasi Upar Mashiach B'Makam Yachal Lechatas Koi. Nisti Nam Mashiach maybe Parish B'Shmias Kol Ubitiv Sasayim. El Min Loiketani Mashiach Shmamino Atumas Midrash Gadashav Koi. The Mashiach Pata. That's why I didn't bring it in. That was like a fastball on the outside. This is okay. Maybe the reason you didn't bring it in because he holds your pata. In other words, you're not lacking to say Rabbi holds like Shimon. Maybe he holds like Rabbi Yosef completely, or Rabbi Akiva. You pata for the whole thing, so you have no raya. Amalei Rabbi Akiva mi pata lei. Rabbi Akiva doesn't pata the whole thing. Mi par the sulei midi. As I the guys who got the new chart, it says aval par chayev. You see, the par chayev, so you won't be pata. So your raya is not nishkan raya. Rabbi Akiva won't hold your pata; he'll hold your chayev. So it is a good raya. You see a good raya. The fact that he said pata is not speaking. He's speaking in hechatim of Thomas Mikdash Ukadash. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Moeder Elazar Shei Maybe Ashum Talui. You won't bring an Ashum Talui. Tani Tana Kameid Rav Sheshes. A reciter of Braya said in front of Rav Sheshes. Ashum Talui Boy Al Tumas Mikdash Ukadashav. And Ashum Talui is brought on if a suffix whether you went to the base of Mikdash, you're not sure. You're being an Ashum Talui. Amalei Dam Lachamani. Rabbi Eliezer, he must be Rabbi Eliezer Dama. Hail v'nem by Karis. Since it says Karis by Tumas Mikdash Ukadashav, Kivu Amaisi, Amaisi like. Nasi Seir Lecha. So we know that you only bring it to a Nashim Tali with a Chi of Karis. So the Chi of Karis would be the suffix Chel of suffix Shumin. So the Isra over here of Ashim Tali would be suffix going to Migdash, suffix not going to Migdash. Okay, if I'm Rabbi Yochanan, why do Elazar Shein maybe Ashim Tali? He says you're not. So it's Bar Kasha and Einach Nishver. Hajalecha Hayra Kay Mashiach, Hajalecha Kay Mashiach.